Here are 4 tips to become a better grant writer. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I teach people to start nonprofits and how to raise money from the ground up. If you need help raising money for your nonprofit, comment join below and I'll send you a link to join a private community where I teach nonprofit founders every week how to raise money. In this video, I'm going to share information about how to become a better grant writer for your nonprofit, but I'm being very specific towards the audience I want to target in this video. So this video is for you if you are a nonprofit founder, maybe you are a board member and you are the person who signed up to be the grant writer for the organization because you all don't have the funds to pay somebody. I'm talking to those people who have to do this work on their own because they can't afford to do that right now. I know that there are people who want to become grant writers or grant writers watching who want to learn how to be better at that craft. And of course, you can get some pointers from this video as well. But I just want to point out that I'm really speaking to those people who are basically forced to write their own grants because they don't have the money yet to hire in order to do that. If you need tips on hiring a grant writer, I want you to check out this video I'm linking above because it'll give you some insights so you know how to search for the right person to help you with your nonprofit. So let's go. I'm going to give you 4 tips. Number 4 is one of the most important, so make sure you watch to the very end to get that tip. Number 1 is to become a grant reviewer. A grant reviewer is a person who a grant funder uses as a way to review the grant applications or proposals that are submitted. So in most circumstances, I've seen government agencies do that. So when a grant funder is a government agency, they will gather a group of people, and a lot of times this work is paid, where they have a scoring rubric or a scoring sheet, and they're asking the grant reviewers to either do the first or second review of the proposals to see which ones are a good fit so that the grant funder can make the final decision. Now, just keep in mind that grant funders are all different. There are government agencies, there are private corporations, there are foundations that are public and private. They all have different processes, and some may use grant reviewers and some may not. So like I said before, most times when I've seen a grant review process, it's with a government agency. And most times I see these opportunities listed alongside grant opportunities. So if there's like a grant bulletin or grant email that a local government agency has, then they'll also identify opportunities in those emails to become a grant reviewer. Or you can check on places like Indeed.com, or you can look at local boards. If you're joining local nonprofit associations, the local United Way, if you're a part of other communities, then you may also see those opportunities come up. So the question is, well, how does a grant reviewer help you become a grant writer? And it's pretty simple. So a lot of times when you're writing a grant proposal, you're so excited to communicate what you want to communicate to the funder that you're not often thinking about that the funder only has certain information they want to know from you. But a mistake that a lot of people make is that they throw everything in there because they feel like, oh, they need to know this, or this is a special piece that they may not have asked for, but I think it will help them make a better decision. But a grant reviewer's job is to look for the things that the grant funder indicated that they want. And so they are laser focused on their scoring sheet or whatever criteria they've been given, and they pay attention to those things. So if whatever they're looking for is not included in the grant application, then that's a strike on that particular application. The reason why this helps you become a better grant writer is because you begin to realize that the end user or the person on the other end of the application really matters when you're writing. You're trying to convey to that person whatever it is that your project is about, and you're trying to persuade them. But you have to have in your mind, well, what are the things they want to know from me or they want to hear from me in order to persuade them best? And if you have like a scoring sheet, which in a lot of times a government grant funder or a government grant will have that scoring sheet, you need to go by that scoring sheet and make sure everything is in there. But being a grant review on the other side also helps you see the fluff, right? So if you have to review 20 applications and you have to get through so much fluff just to get to the meat, that gets tiring, that gets annoying. And then pretty soon you're just looking for what you're looking for. And let's just be real, y'all. Sometimes the grant reviewers skim information. They may not look at everything in depth, or they may skim it first, and then when they find what they're looking for, then look at it in depth. So if you know that's the situation, and if you've been in those shoes where that's you looking at all this information, then the next time you write a grant, you know to get to the point. You know that you're not going to use a lot of indirect language. You're not going to use a whole lot of words to get your point across. You know you're going to have white space in your document if you're submitting a document so that it's easy to read. You're going to use headers and you're going to organize it in a way that's easy to find information. Being a grant reviewer helps you understand what helps you digest the information better on the other end. So then when you're writing the grant, you're saying to yourself, I know if I do this, it'll be easier to read, easier to understand, and it'll just help you write better to the grant. The second tip I will give you is to have other people review your proposals or your applications. So what I found with a lot of nonprofit founders, or even just people who are close to the work that they do, they're so invested in it, or they've worked in the field for so long that there's certain language that they use, and there are a lot of assumptions they make about what people know about the industry or what people know and understand about the type of work that they do. But one thing you got to realize is when you're writing a grant proposal, you cannot make assumptions about what the person on the other end knows or doesn't know about your work. So you may be making the assumption, well, if they're a funder and they tend to fund this kind of work all the time, then I shouldn't have to explain certain things. Or if I use certain language, then I shouldn't have to break that down. But you cannot make assumptions. So when I teach grant writing, I usually tell people to write at an 8th grade level. And sometimes people say at a 5th grade level, because you don't understand what somebody will comprehend. And it's not just about what they will or they won't comprehend. You also have to keep in mind that the person who's reading probably is reading more than one application at a time. So you want to make it easy for them to get the information. And if you're not taking time to make sure that the document is readable or to make sure that anybody can pick it up and understand what you're trying to do, then that's a problem. So the benefit of having another person review is that it takes you out of the bubble. Right? So in your mind, you just assume that people will understand everything you write down. But somebody who doesn't work with you every day or who's not in your industry, if they can look at it with clean eyes, they can notice things that you probably will never notice. So a significant other is a good candidate for this, because a lot of times people who are together or in couples don't necessarily do the same work, or you could do a family member or a friend or whatever. But get somebody who doesn't quite understand what you do. And even if you try to explain, like I think about talking to my mom, I try to explain to her what I do and she doesn't quite always understand what I do. Somebody like that, because you're trying to convey a project and you're trying to convey why it's important for the project or for your organization to do its work. And that's the core of it all. And if somebody just on the street can't understand that, then you do have a problem communicating. So when you are able to have other people who are not connected to your work understand what you're doing, it helps you become better at your craft, helps you become a better and clearer, succinct writer. The third tip, and you're not going to like this one, is to write early. So in most circumstances, when you're writing a grant application, you have a deadline. Either the funder has given you a deadline or you have given yourself a deadline if it's a rolling application process where you can submit at any time. But you know that there is a drop dead date to have certain things done. And it's just human tendency, human nature for people to get stuff done at the last minute. So if you know something is due, you probably won't get started until like 2 weeks or even a week in, maybe even a couple days for some people. And I'm going to be honest, that's reality. That's real. Like most people do that. So don't feel any judgment or don't feel any way if you feel seen right now. But it's better for you to start at least 30 to 45 days in advance if you know you want to submit a grant proposal or application, because you need time to gather all the documents. You need time to think through what you're going to say. You need time to review the budget and make sure the narrative that you've written has matched your budget. You just need time to process and to make sure that everything you want to communicate and get across is done well. You need time for people to review and time to make edits and to put the thing down and then come back to it with a fresh mind. But if you don't give yourself space and time to do that, then you're always rushing. And I know a lot of you are like, shoot, Tiffany, I work well under pressure. But I'm saying to you that when you're working under pressure, you often have typos, or there are some moments where you don't connect the dots the way you really need to do. And people can help you see that if you give the document to somebody else to read. Like, getting more perspectives and having people see what you write is a much better process, but you don't have time to do that if you're always working at the last minute. So a really important tip to write better and to get better is to start early, because there's built-in time for you to get feedback. There's built-in time for you to look at other documents you've written and to compare and to see how you can get better. It gives you time to reach out to a funder to see why you were rejected the last time, or for you to talk to the funder and ask, is this a good fit, and how should we talk about our organization to make sure that we're hitting the right things. Like, it gives you time to be careful and to be thoughtful and intentional about what you submit, and that way you can really notice when you're writing something persuasive and it seems to do well in the application. You can remember those kind of things because you're not under such pressure. So though you may not like it, it's really important to start early and get your stuff done early or on time. And finally, the last tip is to write. And I know it seems so simple, and I told you to wait to the end, but I really do mean it. When you write more, you begin to get better at writing. So what I've noticed about people who struggle with getting started with grants, one of the biggest hurdles is just getting started. So a lot of people will say, well, I have this grant to write, and they'll wait weeks and months to get started, and they won't write one word. But I've noticed that once I begin to write, once I have something to work with, then I'm way more likely to finish and to follow up than I would if I didn't have anything written. It is so hard to start from zero than it is to start from something. So I really encourage you to write. And one thing that has helped me is that I push myself when I need to write something every day. Even if it's not complete sentences, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, even if it's not polished and I wouldn't want any other person to see it because it sounds a mess, you have to get into the practice of writing. Because when you're going from not doing much writing, or maybe writing something of substance once a month or once every 2 weeks, to having to write a whole grant proposal, that's a big leap. So you want to get yourself in the practice of just writing something every day, even if it's a thoughtful thank you note, or it's a paragraph, or it's in response to a question, a detailed question that somebody has. Get into the process of writing and explaining things so you're used to actually writing, and it's not like you're starting from scratch. Here's the other thing that I've noticed about myself too when it comes to writing. I don't write when I feel like what I will put on paper isn't perfect. So I may be in the mood to write and I may have something going, but I don't want to do it because I feel like I'm not there, like I'm not on my game. And so whatever I write is going to be trash, right? But it doesn't matter what you think it'll be. You just have to write. You just have to you have to get into the rhythm of doing it so that you can get up your momentum and start. And I've actually found when I've gone back to look at things that I wrote that I thought would be terrible aren't as bad as I thought it was, and I can piece together what I've created to have something. And like I said before, when you're starting with something, then it's way easier than when you're starting from scratch. Here's another tip that helps with writing. It's to read books or read blog articles or do more reading. And it's also to listen. So listen to things like articles, like podcasts. They get your creative juices flowing. When you hear ideas and thoughts, or you read ideas and thoughts from other people, they really do inspire you to have your own thoughts, to react to what people are saying, to want to say something, to have an opinion about something. It really does get you going. So if you feel like you have writer's block and you're trying to get better with writing, read a book, read articles, or listen to podcasts and listen to things to get your creative juices flowing. So these tips were about writing. Now I have other videos that talk about how to approach grant writing, how to increase your success. There are other things that matter beyond what you write, but I really wanted to focus on the writing portion for this video. So if you have other tips, make sure you drop them below, because we are a community here. We lift up each other and we need to support each other in our startup journeys. If you need help with your nonprofit, make sure you visit me at bossonabudget.com. And also, if you need help, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I have over 300 videos to help you with your nonprofit. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.